Tony Parker is the most underrated point guard to ever play the game of basketball. If you agree or disagree with me, let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Mikey Prince, aka Kid with Game, and welcome to Hoop Nerds. And I want to talk about Tony Parker today because I think Tony Parker is the most underrated point guard to ever play the game of basketball. He is someone that's gonna go down in history as a Hall of Famer, but he will never, has never been discussed as being one of the top five point guards at any point in his career during his prime. And that bothers me. Yes, there were a lot of great point guards. There are a lot of great point guards, but Tony Parker's name is never mentioned. And people, I feel, don't really appreciate Tony Parker and what he's done. Here we go. In 2001, Tony Parker was drafted by the San Antonio Spurs with the 28th pick overall coming out of France. This guy was not even looked at as any type of player when he was drafted. I mean, he was being overlooked. No one really cared. People were like, Tony, who? Huh? What? He was from overseas. Yes, they knew what he could do. Yes, they knew he was a crafty point guard, but they didn't think he had to be in the NBA. Fast forward and look at his resume of what he has done in this league. You are talking about a six-time All-Star, a four-time NBA champion. He is the 2006-2007 Finals MVP. This guy had his best stretch of games from the 2006 through the 2009 seasons. In those seasons, he averaged a total of 19 points a game, 6 assists on 51% shooting and 74% from the free throw line. Now, quick note, in all these stats, I will not mention any of his percentages from the three-point line because we all know that Tony Parker has never been a three-point shooter. That wasn't his game. If that's your only argument to why he was never mentioned as the top five, then I don't know what to tell you. Moving on. In the 2008-2009 season, which was probably his best season, he averaged 22 points a game on 6 assists on 50% shooting and 78% from the free throw line. This is a guy that could get you assists. He was very crafty moving into the paint. He was a leader, a floor general on the team. This was a guy that can be part of a system that you need him in. Yes, he played for the Spurs. Yes, he played for Greg Popovich's San Antonio system. But is that a reason to exclude him out of the top of a top point guard list? Because if that's the case, then I guess Tim Duncan isn't the best power forward because he's been playing under Greg Popovich system his entire career for 21 years. If that's the case, Kawhi Leonard shouldn't be an MVP candidate in his previous years because he's been playing for a Greg Popovich system his entire career. Tony Parker has been playing under a Greg Popovich system his entire career, and he has never been looked at as one of the great point guards to have ever played this game. And yes, he played in eras that had a lot of other great point guards. If you talk about guys like Chris Paul, you talk about guys like Darren Williams, back then, you talk about a Steve Nash, a Jason Kidd, maybe even a Rondo. But you know what? All these guys are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, except for Darren Williams. And you know what? With the exception of maybe Rondo and Jason Kidd, which was probably later, so I will include him into this, they don't have rings. Tony Parker has four. Tony Parker played a huge factor in, I would say, at least three of those four. So, even including Finals MVP. I mean, this is a guy that really, really, really is a really great point guard in his prime. Yes, he's slowed down now. Yes, he's coming off a knee injury from last year, but even though he's back this year, he's actually not playing that bad. Even though there's debates about he should be coming off the bench because he's getting older because of his knee injury, let Patty Mills really be the face of the point guard situation for that team, which I do agree with. Tony Parker is getting older. He is slowing down, but in his prime, Tony Parker was great. Tony Parker wasn't always the quickest point guard, but he was quick. He wasn't the most athletic point guard. Actually, he wasn't an athletic point guard, but he was a crafty point guard. He got in the paint. He got his shot that he wanted. I think I think he's one of the best floaters to have for a point guard, for a player in general. And this guy's floaters was beautiful. No one was able to block his floaters. This guy mastered the floating shot. I would say the second best to that was would probably Rondo later on. But Tony Parker really, really, really was a great point guard. And I really wanted to make this video and stress that and vent and rant about this because I think Tony Parker, even though he is a guaranteed Hall of Famer, even though he is a guaranteed champion and a Finals MVP, and he deserves his All Stars and he deserves everything else that he got in his league. But he is a top 5 point guard in his prime. Not now, but when he was in his prime, there was a lot of discussions out there about who was the best point guards, and people were throwing out a lot of names. And throughout all those years in his prime, no one was talking about Tony Parker. Just like how no one ever talks about the Spurs being the best teams at the beginning of every season, and then they're all the Spurs in the playoffs, one game away from going to the NBA Finals or something. No one talks about them. No one talks about these Spurs. No one really talks about how great the San Antonio Spurs are. I mean, they are really overlooked. That might be another video I'm going to have to do. I'm really going to have to break down these San Antonio Spurs over these last 22 years and how great of a team they really were and still are. And wow. But Tony Parker is in that conversation. Tony Parker is a huge factor to how great these San Antonio Spurs are for the past, what, 10 years? So, anyway, guys, I had to get that out. I'm glad I got that out. And it's something I want to talk about for a while. So, if you enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up. That will mean a lot to me. Please leave a comments below if you agree or disagree that Tony Parker in his prime, not now, was and should have been in conversations as the best point guard of the league or one of the best point guards in the league. I'm not even talking about he had to be the best. I'm not saying he was the best because there was a lot of great point guards. I named a couple. I didn't name Chris Paul. And it was, was the best during the Tony Parker era. You still had Steve Nash. You had the Jason Kidds. You had the Rondos. You forgot who else, but they were there. So I'm not saying he was the best. I'm just saying he should have been in conversations. He should have been in debates. He was never in a debate, and that's what makes him the most underrated. He is probably going to go down into the Hall of Fame as the most underrated point guard to ever play the game of basketball. Just saying. So hit that thumbs up button if you like it. Make sure you subscribe if you're new to the channel. You like what I do here. Basketball nerd, as you can see. And I like to talk basketball, and I want all the other hoop nerds out there in the world to come and talk basketball with me. Let's get into debates and arguments and all that good stuff. If you have anything you want me to talk about in the future, you can always leave a comment down below, or you can follow me on my Instagram and Twitter. All that will be in the description below. And I will catch you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and I will see ya later.